How you doing?
Yeah,
We made it!
yay!
Broadcasting live!
I love it.
For those of you who may have been expecting to see Sammy James, I am not Sammy James. Just to clear that part up right away, I am the delightful Mixed Dahlia Belle, and I get the honor of interviewing Apollo Flowerchild today. Hey!
Hey,
How
what's
you
up?
doing, love?
I am good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. How's life been treating you?
Um, it's life. It's good and it's turbulent and it's all the things that it wants to be when it wants to be it.
Absolutely. Did you black it up for Juneteenth?
I will be. I have a Juneteenth gig right after this broadcast
Nice! Nice. Where? Where's that?
in the Bronx.
Nice.
Yeah.
A specific venue or?
It's at this garden location. It's on like Shane Street, I believe. But
All right.
it's gonna be cool. So a bunch of people
So,
have.
viewers, if you're in the Bronx, go to that garden. Yeah. Who else is on that show, if you know at all?
I mean, this is all people I've worked with for like a while. So it's just like people who've worked in community in Bronx community for a while, who worked in the Point in the Bronx. I don't know if you know about that location. But they do a lot of like youth community work where they like give them access to ways to build their own businesses and things of that nature.
Right.
So it's really, really cool.
Yeah, that is beautiful. I feel like New York is doing a really good job with the community building.
Mhm.
Would you agree?
I would say so. I would say people who are living in New York City are doing a good job of the community building. I mean, I think
Fair.
it's been a long time. I mean, I have lots of feelings about just the festivities around Pride in general. But I think this year, maybe I don't know, it's because of post pandemic or also in the pandemic, but it's starting to feel very post. um, at least New York City is moving faster than the pandemic can slow down in terms of making things normal again. But I don't know. I feel a bit more festive this year. I guess like just celebrating my Black queerness feels like okay to do. I guess, or
Right.
I feel desire to do it because in the past I have just not felt that way.
So speaking of which, like, I don't know if it's just like my West Coast filter of things, but it seems like coming out of the pandemic, coming out, coming out of the quarantine part of the pandemic, um, there's this sort of Black queer renaissance taking place where we are like extra Black, extra queer, and just doing our damn thing without asking anyone's permission. How is that treating you? Is that working out?
I mean, it's awesome. I mean,
Good.
I know like my relationship to my queerness has been very, I guess it's a little less aesthetic. Like it's not something that can always be seen because I live a pretty chill life. I guess I can say.
Yeah.
There's much activity. A lot of my interests lean into just being in nature and spending a lot of time trying not to be seen.
Yeah, I love how non-binary people always think that no one knows you're queer. Yeah.
It's weird. It's a weird thing. It's a weird
Yeah.
thing.
Trust me, family. We know. We know. I can see you. I can see you.
It's
I
funny
have eyes.
gaydar like because I'm always just like I guess you can tell with heavy air quotes. Like, you know until you ask, you're right. So like I know many people can maybe share this experience. Like maybe you had that one professor that you absolutely thought was queer, and then they're like, "So me and my wife," and you're like, "Whoa!"
You know, I don't accept it. If I think someone's queer and they tell me they're not, I'm like, you're a liar.
No, believe it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you know how many straight men I've made out with in my life before transition? Trust me, it's everyone's a little gay on the inside.
Everyone's a little gay. Yeah. No, it's true.
We all bleed red and we all have gay sex from time to time.
I'm screaming.
So anyhow, we're talking about this Black queer renaissance. I'm loving it. You're loving it. But we keep talking. There's this phrase that everyone's using, returning to normal, post quarantine. Like, do we really want to return to normal?
I think the vast majority of white neurotypicals do.
Mm-hmm. That part.
I mean, no, that's ableist. I'm like any sane person. I'm like, no one's sane.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you think you're sane, that is a problem.
Anyone self-aware.
Anyone self-aware, great replacement. I think just knows that like the state of the world isn't good. Any returning to normal is not returning to anything that we wanted in the first place. So I think right now, I think the pandemic has given, at least New York City, because I can only speak generatively of where I'm at, has given us an opportunity to really reshape things coming out of pandemic. And people are really taking advantage of that, which I think is an awesome, beautiful thing. Well, still, the heavy onset of like, rich white folk who have this sort of idea that like, oh my God, who pretended the whole pandemic, nothing was wrong. Which I'm like still always baffled by, because I'm just like, that takes a particular kind of crazy to me.
Yeah. And not the good kind. Not the kind that leads to a nice house party.
No. It's just a lack of empathy. And I think I spoke about this with an older friend of mine a while ago. Like, it's so funny that we live in like an era where like we have to like convince people to care about other people.
Yeah. Right?
Gross.
Yeah, it's disturbing. It's not the way we want to do this. Mm-hmm. So what are some ways you've been carving out your particular space in this new paradigm?
To be fair, my space has pretty much been carved the same way. I'm very loner adjacent. That's kind of just how I exist and live my life. I've had to become a person with lots of hard boundaries, because I'm learning that there's a lot of things that I cannot tolerate, especially from my friends. And I am on a spectrum of friends who are like, have really low impulse control and love to have fun and love to be spontaneous. And I am the complete opposite of that. I'm a severely, like, ridiculously rigid, personally disciplined individual, which is something I have had to learn and craft in my identity as I've gotten older. But it's something I have great value in. So I don't have a lot of space for randomness and spontaneity and impulsiveness, because I've never been impulsive once in my life. So I'm just like, I don't understand. I don't know how that works, but I see how it affects my friends. So I'm very much like, carving out more space for me has looked like making harder boundaries, but while still trying to respect the people that I know and love, and just making sure they don't feel like they're being exiled because I have things that I need to feel safe and respected that they need to feel safe and respected.
I think that's valid.
Yeah.
One of my comedy mentors used to say you can divide comedy between comics with ADHD and comics with OCD. And it sounds like you're with me in the OCD clique.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's very much where I fall into. It's funny because my zodiac sign would speak otherwise, but
what is your zodiac sign?
You want to take a little guess?
Ooh. So if you are the opposite of what your zodiac sign should say, I'm going to go with Sagittarius.
Oof. That's a pretty good guess, considering all my best friends are Sagittarii. I'm just like, these wild bitches.
Right?
And then I love them anyway. So it's like.
But all the Sages I know, they live up to their stereotypes.
Oh, hell yeah, they do. Hell yeah, they do. And they're so proud. But there's nothing wrong with that. But I am most definitely a Scorpio.
That makes perfect sense. I didn't want to take that guess. Like, I already liked you, so I knew you were a Scorpio. But
yes, big. And then if you're into charts, it doesn't help, because the chart is concentrated Scorpio, like Scorpio Sun, Scorpio Moon, Scorpio Rising, Scorpio Venus.
Oh, damn. You went all in.
It's really bad.
I'm in-
Really bad. Really bad. I'm a really intense person. And I take that in stride.
So speaking of your layering of identity, so quadruple Scorpio. I happen to know from an earlier discussion that you do also have a joke about your sexual gender identity being described as triple A.
Yeah.
So
AAA battery. Got all
so what three A's are we rolling with here?
So the three A's for me are agender, asexual, and aromantic.
All right. Now let's dive into this real quick. Because for anyone who knows me, I make no secret of being demisexual or gray ace. Whatever. I don't like gray ace. It makes me sound like an alien or something, or like I'm like not as dedicated. And I'm fully dedicated to being an asexual slut. That's how. But aromantic, it's something that fascinates me, but I don't know that it's really understood by most people. So would you mind dissecting how that plays out for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think in the general landscape of aromanticism and just like standard generative definition, it's just like lack of romantic attraction. Well, what the fuck is romantic attraction? I think people have an idea that like most people desire to be in relationships that have some form of exclusivity surrounding them that involve a level of intimacy that is not necessarily platonic and not necessarily familial. And while to some degree that might be true, the labels don't really hold the value that really has, in my opinion. And I think the canon of romance is something that most aro people do not identify with. So how we've been taught to see romance, display romance, act and perform romance is usually there's a level of disagreement with that. I know for me, there's like 100% level of like disdain even for it. Like it takes a new level outside of my identity to like, I need to not have this in my life. And not to the point where I can't appreciate my friends falling in love and things of that nature. But I think for myself personally, how I've seen romance played out, I just don't. I don't desire it. I don't want it. And it doesn't help that I'm also polyamorous. And so, and then like, I don't have a romantic like pinpoint to move with that identity either. Like I can't be like, I have multiple partners because I'm not comfortable with the word partner. Everyone is either my friend or you're my family member. So even if we're intimate, you're my friend. So
that was the next thing I was going to ask. You're better at interviewing yourself than I am. But I was curious because I'm in a similar boat to yourself of being poly, but then like you have all these discussions and anyone outside the polyamorous community always has this idea that we're just going around fucking nonstop. Like that's just how we plan our day. Yeah. So aromantic polyamory, what does that look like?
Well, at least for me, I feel like I've spent a lot of my time having to come up with my own definition and my own conclusions to, how I need to navigate myself. Just because if I didn't, I'd be stranded. And I feel like how I navigate, and it's been a slow burn. Like it's been a thing of like discovering my asexuality, then discovering my aromanticism, and then already being in multiple relationships and having to re-navigate with all those things like with those people. And I think the big thing for me is that like a love language of mine is distance. Like staying away from me will make me love you more. Because I dig it. Being smothered by neediness and like codependency is the one-way track to me immediately breaking up with you. So I guess mentally I can't take it.
So definitely quadruple Scorpio. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but quality time is very important to me. I really care about the time we spend together. I just don't care that it is frequent.
Yeah, which makes it quality, quality over quantity.
It does, but I know that like navigating the aromantic polyness means that also you need to schedule and make sure you spend time with those people so that they feel loved and respected by you. And I'm also a person, and I say this all the time, who's never ever been in love ever in my entire life. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that feels like. I can love very strongly. I can love very hard. But I think the grounding thought, and I think this might be like the peak thing in my aromanticism, is that no matter what relationship I am in, I can always imagine myself by myself and more comfortable than I am by myself than ever in a relationship. So
I am very envious, by the way.
Oh, no.
I probably would have finished my degree had I been a romantic.
No! Not love got in the way.
Yeah, right? So saying as you're rolling with agender, asexual, aromantic, but none of that really covers orientation per se. So how do you personally see or perceive or define your orientation?
Orientation as in like sexuality?
For example, like I am demisexual, but I am, if I'm going to be sexual with someone, I am generally more interested in men, but I am very much omni-romantic. I don't give a fuck what someone's gender is for me to be intimate in a non-sexual way, which is how I prefer to be intimate anyhow. So in practice, I prefer to not know what gender my partner is.
I think it's a very similar boat. I feel like, I mean, it's just because of the way the world is built. Since I had to discover my asexuality through having sex with people, because just the pressure of living in a sexual world, and not having any guide from other asexual people. Because if that were the case, I would have probably never ever had sex. But at this stage of life, I feel like my asexuality leans on a side of repulsion. So like I typically don't ever want to engage in sex. But everything has to be a conversation, like as like anything else. Like but like because of that, I can never have organic sex. Like it can't be like, oh, I'm feeling a vibe from you, you're feeling a vibe from me, and we're just gonna do it. I can't do it because I will feel someone's sexual tension, and they try to make a move on me. It's an automatic violation of my privacy. Because I'm just like, you didn't ask me if I wanted to do this. You just assumed that I would be okay with it because I liked you, and I'm like, I don't like sex that much, so you got me all the way fucked up. But I don't think there's really a push and pull either. I'm pretty much omni in that regard of orientation. Like I just say queer because it takes a good. I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's a dude, it's a chick, it's another non-binary individual, another non-conforming individual. Like I don't care. I really don't care. As long as I like think you're cool. Like all non-sexual forms of intimacy are always on the table. Like I like I like to, cuddle with people. I like to kiss people. It's fun. But also I'm not pressed to do it. Like, but those are also conversations. Like you can't kiss me unless you ask me. We can't hold hands unless you ask me. We can't cuddle unless you ask me. And the same should go oppositely. I'm going to ask you if that's something that I want to do so that you have the option to say no. I'm all about giving people like their agency back. So that's like a big part of like how my relationships are built. I'm like, you can say no to anything at any time. And I will remind you because bitches open one to say no.
Yep. And it's kind of like, I really, really, really like ice cream, but I don't want someone just rolling in and shoving a spoonful in my mouth. But
that's a perfect analogy.
Why, thank you. That's why people pay me to write. I'm behaving as well as I can, by the way. I'm so proud of me right now. Good.
I mean, I love the energy you're giving. So,
obviously, we're here together. Sammy would not subject anyone to me who is not a comedian. How long have you been doing comedy?
I'm not funny. Funny. I'm like, I've never been a comedian. Maybe sometimes my friends say I make them laugh, but like I'm a dry ass bitch. Like,
So how would you prefer to define your craft?
oh, I'm totally and absolutely a musician slash visual artist.
Oh,
Yeah.
so Sammy did just subject you to me. That's not nice. We're gonna have to have a chat later. No, so
that I'm a musician too.
you probably did, but I'm not gonna read before doing this. I don't come prepared. I had an alcoholic beverage to finish drinking. I had a blunt to roll. I don't have time to know who I'm talking to. But so you are a musician, visual artist. Do you have a favorite visual medium?
So I pretty much spent most of my like professional art life doing like pieces in like ballpoint pen and watercolor. That was like my big thing because I went to art school for like 15 years of my life. To now be a musician, trying to go to school for music. So like that's the trajectory has flipped in some way, shape, or form. Because
you just really love school. That's
I'm glad you said it before I did because I fucking love school. I love like the institution of academia, but I love school.
Yeah.
I love.
What is it that does it for you about school?
I think there's no, and I think this is just a product of like the way the world works, which is kind of gross, is that there aren't really many isolated places to just learn something like in a vacuum, and school kind of feels like that. And there's a double-edged sword to that. Like not everything that is relevant to school is relevant to life. Hence the vacuum.
Have you ever tried never leaving your bedroom?
That has been something that has been a product of depression.
That's my go-to. I'm interviewing from my bed right now.
My bedroom too. This is my sanctuary.
Right? There we go. So 15 years in art school.
Yep.
And now you're in school for music as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Do you have a primary instrument that you prefer?
I first learned how to play guitar, but I now know how to play 6 instruments, which is kind of cool.
Ooh, which 6?
I know guitar, ukulele, melodica, piano. I'm learning trumpet right now, which is kind of interesting. And that's
yeah, trumpet. That's a whole nother realm of skill.
But also, like, now I'm kind of afraid to get good at it because I saw Louis Armstrong's lips, and I was just like, I'm not trying to look like that.
That's
like he sold his soul to the devil for 2 seconds, and that was his price to pay forever.
It's worth it. It's that sexy little trumpet player beak thing. Let me get lip callus.
I don't want it. I'm like, Louis can keep it.
So what else were we even talking about? Trumpets, pianos, melodica. Are you currently in a band or solo?
So I've been solo for a while. I just recently joined an all trans band. Or formed it. I didn't join it more than we made the band together. We're all in a band together as a trans unit for the first time. One person has been in a band before, but we just decided that being in a trans band is what we wanted to do. But it's called Morning People. And yeah, we're cool or whatever. I love all of them. One of the members was actually my direct manager under the trans label that I was a part of for 2 years. And now I'm an independent artist, but I'm working on my first EP, and that's going to be its own wonderful thing.
And where can people locate your music or the music of Morning People?
Well, Morning People music has not come out yet because I joined this band literally 2 months ago. So we're still, putting things together. We have our first gig next month, so that's going to be cool. But my music, personally, you can find on everything. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music. SoundCloud is my large discography of demos that I have been producing since I started putting music out into the world. But some of my final stuff is on Spotify and Apple Music, so you can find my stuff there.
And that is under Apollo Flowerchild.
Yep.
I would. fantastic. So we will make sure that everyone goes there and listens to that. Because otherwise, they're missing out and they should be ashamed of themselves. Plus, they're transphobic. So, I love declaring random things transphobic. It just brings me so much joy in my world. You did. I figure this is, of course, still Pride Month, and we have to make some mention of it. I personally feel that for trans people of a certain generation, and especially Black people of a certain generation, Pride has always, so let's dive in here. Would you like to unpack your complicated Pride feelings?
Well, to be fair, I didn't know that I was queer until I was 19 years old. I'm turning 26 this year. Yeah. So like that was the first year I figured anything out about myself, about gender, sexuality have all kind of hit at the same exact time.
Oh, damn.
Like it wasn't like a slow burn. Like for most people, sometimes they know some part of their identity like very early and then other things will unpack later, or vice versa. Give me 5 seconds. Let me just open this door because my cat is yelling in my ear off.
I noticed. We can interview the cat too.
I'm like, his meowing can be insufferable. Yeah, I love him, but yes. Pride for me has always been this weird. I have a weird disconnect to like the festivities of Pride in general, especially in New York City because it's overpopulated by white cis gay men with their shirts off walking around the street, which is, for most people, free soft porn. And for me is a nightmare.
Fair. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not hot and bothered. I don't care. And also like, is this how we're going to celebrate like liberating Black queer people? No. And also like, because of that, there's also this thing that like, substances are also targeted towards queer community. Like when there's like the rainbow wine bottle, blah, 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 like
yeah,
we're depressed. We're depressed and oppressed, and you're gonna give me a fucking Pinot Noir.
Like this solves everything.
I'm like, all right.
I don't need freedom or housing. I just need this peanut.
Right. I'm like, it's just dumb to me. I'm just like the target. it's all a ploy. But in 2016, it was my first and last Pride March that I ever went to because I learned that I also have an aversion to parades, but also parades that feel like a completely useless gesture.
Again, I say anyone who is self-aware, I believe, hates parades. I'm not going to leave my house to watch a bunch of other people take a walk. That's fucking weird to me. Like, why? So, but what for you? What would actual Black queer liberation look like? What is our path towards that end?
I feel like that's a very multi-layered question.
I know.
I feel like there's a lot of ways it can look. And my life, I think there's a big dissonance, and like this is a very binary way to look at it. But I think there's a big dissonance between people who want to see the community become better first before seeing themselves become better. So like they act as if they're sacrificial lambs to the cause, when in reality they could be doing so much more work if they work on themselves first and then allow themselves to be helpful to others. And I'm very much on the side of if I'm not good, none of you bitches are good. And I'm a very hyper independent individual, but the way that it comes off is like backhanded altruism, because I'm just like, okay, if I'm good, then that means I can help everyone the way I need to. But I'm a reliable person who doesn't like to be relied on. So or like overused, I would say, I guess, because my battery is very small.
It's AAA. I mean, that's like the smallest.
Yes, battery. I'm like, I have very big energy and capacity for myself at all times because I just have to survive. But I don't have that much capacity for everybody else. But I try to like give people tools to make like day-to-day life a little bit easier, and then have them give those tools to their other people, like their friends, their family members, whatever. And I just know that if the people who know me are affected by me and can respect me in a way that makes me feel safe, they can then translate those skills onto other people, and then that has its own ripple effect. Instead of me trying to clamor for all the broken people in the world and fixing them all at once, which no one can do.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why it might feel like people are grasping at straws, and it might feel super hopeless because you're literally grasping at people you cannot reach. But if you can reach the people who know you, like those are the people who are the most affected by you. So that's just my trajectory, is very much like start here and then fan out, not try to grab the world. Like the world is not gonna heal that way. At least I don't think so.
I'm with you. I'm very much community, well, self first, because otherwise you can't do shit. Like, how are you going to tell anyone or advise anyone if you don't know what the fuck you're doing?
Right.
And then, like you were saying, just help the people right next to you, and they can do the same because they know someone you don't.
It's true.
What is your kitty's name?
Oh, it's Galileo.
Galileo, nice.
Have a big thing where I'm gonna have a lot. I'm basically gonna have a house that looks like a zoo. But all my cats have to be named after scientists, and all my dogs have to be named after painters. So it was a weird thing that I have going on with animal synergy.
So how many cats and dogs do you have currently?
I currently have a single cat, but I live with another cat and a dog.
Okay.
So this is all future trajectory. I'm slowly building my palace, as you would say.
Do you have other roommates, or do you just claim ownership? Okay. I was just wondering if you just claimed ownership of one cat and then just another cat and a dog just lived in your house. Just rent free. Okay.
I mean, it doesn't matter. My cat is rent free. I'm like, I got that bitch for free, and I'm still paying for that bitch. I'm like,
yeah, people always forget that.
Like medical bills, like
you're like, it's a free cat. Now to get the $50 bag of litter.
Jesus, I'm happy that we split that cost in this house, which is nice.
How long have you lived with Galileo?
A year. Galileo's a little bit over a year old now. But I'm basically his whole life at this point.
So you have 4 roommates.
Mm-hmm.
How is that going?
It's good. I mean, we have a good house synergy. This is the 3rd time that I've like moved somewhere new since I've moved out of my parents' place, and this is the best set of roommates I've ever had. I think there's an internal like I need to still live by myself brain, because I will refuse to be at the mercy of anyone else's standards of living. Because my standards are very in the middle, I would say. Like, I'm a cleanly individual, but I'm not an anal retentive individual. And some people's like anxiety and depression are also wrapped into how they need their house to be. And I'm not going to impose on anyone else, but it can be very easy for my roommates to impose on me. So, and I'm just like, I know you're just mad because this is what's happening, and I understand and I get it, but also leave me out of it. Thank you.
I feel it.
And they're gonna me, so I'm not. There's no problems.
Nice. Good. I always have to ask this, and I like to give context for these strangely invasive questions.
You're good.
So over the course of the last year and a half or so, my fiance and we have done a fine job of limiting the amount of white people and straight people we interact with to 2. There are 2 of them still in our life that keep hanging around. I don't get it. Apparently you can't put a restraining order against someone just for being white. Who knew? But anyhow. So are your roommates connected with your broader intersectional community, or are you just able to deal?
We're all trans. And of color. Only one person.
I know.
Is half white, but like we're all of color.
Right? Yes. I know. I knew it. I knew it because you said they were good roommates. And I'm like, this doesn't sound like you're living with white straight people. Okay.
Well, terrible roommate situation. Unfortunately, like, and this is, I know it has nothing to do with her identity, but it was basically this weird house situation that was like run by a white trans woman. And it was basically a similar situation to this one. Like, it's only queer people who came in and out of this space. It was very big. And she was seemingly nice, but she ended up being actually very vicious. So very like slumlord adjacent. Like, and that's what, you know, broke the illusion for me. I was like, oh yes, queer and trans people are just great. Like, I have nothing to worry about with them. I'm like, they're people at the end of the day, and people can be shitty. So here we are.
To be fair, one of my dear white friends, I do still have them. See, the last part was just a joke. I'm a kid, but one of my dear white friends, we were working in retail together, and he made this statement. He was like, I always make it a point to be extra nice to people of color, especially older Black people. I'm like, that's not really what we're asking. I'm not asking you to be extra nice. I just want you to not be an asshole. And it's like, I don't think you understand, Dahlia. White people are assholes to each other also. And I'm like, oh, it's all clear now.
It's true. It's true. Honestly,
yeah.
It's really just like, it's the sense of, I think it's the misguided privilege. I think if you live in a world where you feel like nothing can harm you, you're gonna have a lot of dickheads.
Or you're like conditioned to think that like everything you get is just because of you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I think there was a lady who ran a panel a long time ago at my school. I think her name was Miss Painter. And she made a comment that jarred a lot of my classmates. She's a Black woman. She's really great. She's an amazing person. She's like an art historian. And she was like, you know, there's this thing with like the difference of experiences of Black and white people and just the disparity of privilege. And she was like, okay, so have you ever noticed that whenever white people are sad or miserable or anxious or depressed, it feels like a very like a self-pity party. Like, oh my God, I failed myself, blah, 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 blah. Like, how could I have done this? Like, but when Black people fail, it's like, how could I have failed my people?
Yeah.
And the weight that comes with failure for Black people just feels so much greater, because when we're out in the world and we're public and we're doing what we got to do and we're successful, like the moment we fail, everyone is going to watch it happen, especially our own people. And then they're going to reflect that and be like, oh, another one. They were so good. Blah, 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 blah. But when one white person fails, it's just that one white person. It's just that one person. Only that one person's life is ruined. Not their entire community, not their family's lives, nothing. Just the individual. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. You just opened my mind.
My mind. So I'm glad I can pass that information along, that thought along. Like, because I was just like, and I'm a person which is very funny. I don't know if you know, like I don't know what the test is called when you stand along the line of a lot of people and then you guys like answer questions based off of your experience and you see who ends up at the end. It's like the privilege test, I think.
Huh, I've never done that.
I did it twice. But on these privilege tests, I shit you not, I somehow come out always closer to the white people with the most privilege. And I almost never know why, until I realize that when I fail, I don't think that I'm failing on everybody else, because I don't give a fuck about bitches. I have a very singular brain. I'm like, I'm not out here trying to be successful for anybody else. I very much have a, like, I'm doing this for myself brain. And if I'm not good, nobody's good brain. But I'm also really comfortable with failure. And I think maybe that idea, the disparity between privilege and trying to like pick up the scrap so that everyone else can succeed, like the disparity between that affects how you think about that, and maybe ultimately how you experience the world too. Because I feel like I move as if I have it all together and I don't have it all together, but I'm also not blaming anyone else on having it all together, and I'm also not like carrying anyone else's shit with my shit. But it's hard for people of color not to be carrying the shit of other people of color.
Yeah.
So I completely understand that.
I commend and applaud you. You are faking having your shit together very well. In fact, you have survived an entire interview with me. It has been such a pleasure getting to know you better. And Apollo Flowerchild, everyone, please look up their music on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you can find decent quality music. I will literally be doing that immediately after this interview so that I don't feel as embarrassed.
Oh.
And you have a show tonight in the Bronx, in a garden somewhere, at some time.
At 7:10.
Okay, so at 7:10. So
you think I could totally put the flyer in the chat if that helps anyone?
So everybody, you have a few hours to figure out where this garden is and get there and support Apollo Flowerchild and the new band coming out, Morning People. I am under contractual obligation to make a few other announcements. First of all, if you're in the Portland area on the 23rd, which is this next Wednesday, I will be at Helium Comedy Club for Helium's Funniest Person at 8 p.m. Come support me because I deserve it. And then on the 25th, there will be a special episode of Trans Talk featuring non-binary lawyer Celeste Argentino Fiore, who I also know nothing about. So fortunately, I don't do that interview. And then the very next day, on the 26th, Badass Trans Women, another comedy show produced by our beloved Sammy James. Also, tomorrow night, come to think of it, if you happen to be on the internets at some time that I don't recall, but you can look it up, Powerless Point by Traverse Comedy. I'll be on there. And then later on Suitman Productions, Black and Proud. So it's a comedy lineup, all Black and queer and trans folk, being nearly as funny as myself. So once again, Apollo, thank you so much for being here and putting up with my silliness. And I hope we'll be in touch.
Yeah, please.
You've been fabulous, and all the viewers at home, we love you as well. You've been wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.